What if half the stuff the pet store sells you for your aquarium has a cheaper version, or a free one, sitting right there that they will never point you toward? It does. And after 30 years in this hobby, 15 of them running my own shop, I can tell you exactly which corners you are being quietly upsold on. These are 17 hacks the store has no reason to tell you, and most of them save you real money. Let me be straight about what this is, because I was on the other side of that counter for a long time. The store is not evil, it is a business, and a business sells you the thing with its margin on it, not the free thing that does the same job. Nobody at a register is going to send you to the garden center, or the grocery store, or another hobbyist's garage, even when that is exactly where the smart money goes. I will. 17 of these, and I mean the real ones, not internet nonsense that hurts your fish. And stay to the end, because the last thing I give you is not a hack. It is the whole underground the store fears most, the place where all 17 of these come together, and you may barely need the store again. Here is the thread running through all 17, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Almost nothing in this hobby is special, because it says aquarium on the label. Bacteria do not know they are living in a branded biomedia. A plant does not care if its fertilizer came from the fish aisle or the garden aisle. Fish do not know their frozen shrimp came from a tiny expensive cube instead of the human freezer section. The markup you pay is very often paying for the picture of a fish on the package, and nothing else. So the game here is simple. Figure out what the branded product actually is underneath, and then buy that thing where it is cheap. That is the whole list. First hack, and it is the one that saves you the most grief. Buy the bigger tank, not the little one. The store loves to steer a beginner toward a cute little nano tank, those tiny 5 or 10 gallon setups, because they are cheap to buy and they look easy. They are the opposite of easy. A small volume of water swings fast. The temperature, the chemistry, a little overfeeding, and one mistake spikes the whole thing before you can react. A bigger tank, say a 20 or a 40 gallon, holds a much larger buffer of water, so everything moves slowly and forgives your mistakes. The nano they sold you as the easy starter is genuinely the hardest tank in the building. Start bigger, and you will keep fish alive that a nano would have killed while you learned. Second, use pond and pool biomedia instead of the branded aquarium stuff. Biomedia is just the porous material in your filter where beneficial bacteria live, the bacteria that turn fish waste into less harmful compounds. The aquarium version comes in a bag with a fish on it and a premium price. The exact same porous ceramic or plastic, sold for pond filters or pool systems, often costs a third of the price for the same amount, sometimes less. It is the identical material doing the identical job, and your bacteria genuinely cannot read the label. Buy the pond media, rinse it, put it in your filter, and pocket the difference. Third, make your own root tabs for pennies. Root tabs are little fertilizer capsules you push into the substrate to feed rooted plants, and the store sells a small pack of them for real money. What is inside is basically a controlled release garden fertilizer, the little coated prills sold in every garden center under names like Osmocote. Buy empty gel capsules, the kind for vitamins. Fill them with that garden fertilizer, and you have just made 100 root tabs for about the price of one store pack of a dozen. Push them into the substrate near your root feeding plants every few months. Same result, a tiny fraction of the cost. Fourth, run a do-it-yourself carbon dioxide setup on a small planted tank. Plants build themselves out of carbon dioxide, and the store will tell you that to grow the nice plants you need an expensive pressurized CO2 system. On a small tank you can cheat that with a soda bottle, sugar, and ordinary bread yeast. The yeast eats the sugar and gives off carbon dioxide. You run a line from the bottle into your tank, and you get enough carbon to grow plants that supposedly needed the fancy gear. I will be honest about this one. It is inconsistent. The output fades as the yeast tires, and you have to remix it every couple of weeks. And it is only practical on a smaller tank, so treat it as a cheap way to start, not a match for a pressurized system. But for a few dollars it really does get a beginner growing better plants. Fifth, feed frozen seafood from the grocery store, instead of those tiny aquarium cubes. Walk the human freezer aisle, and you will find raw shrimp, whitefish, and peas, and that is the same food the store sells you as little frozen fish cubes at many times the price per feeding. Chop a raw shrimp into fish-sized bits, or thaw a pea and squeeze it out of its skin for a fish with digestion trouble, and you are feeding restaurant quality for pennies. Two honest rules on this one. It has to be plain and raw. No seasoning, no cooking, no garlic or salt added, just the plain seafood. And feed it in moderation as part of a varied diet, not the only thing, because variety keeps fish healthiest. Done right, one bag of grocery shrimp feeds a tank for months. Everything in this video, and the full 101 secret system behind it, is in the Aquarist's Bible. 204 pages covering the tap water that's quietly poisoning your fish, and the $5 fix for it, the nitrogen cycle explained the way nobody at the store ever bothers to, the $3 filter upgrade that doubles what your filter can handle, the overfeeding that causes the deaths nobody admits to, easy plants that actually live, and the cleanup crew that eats each type of algae so you stop buying the wrong one. Plus a quick reference card you can tape inside your stand so you always know the right move when a fish looks off. If you are tired of testing your water, doing everything right, and still losing fish for no reason you can explain, this is the reference you have been waiting for. Link in the description below, QR code on screen. Sixth, breed your own live food, because the store would much rather sell you a little vial of it every week. Baby brine shrimp, hatched from eggs in a jar of salt water in about a day, and microworms, cultured in a tub of oatmeal, cost almost nothing to keep going, and fish go wild for them. Live food triggers natural feeding behavior, and it is some of the best conditioning food there is, especially if you ever want to breed your fish. A little starter culture of microworms costs a couple of dollars once, and then feeds fish essentially forever if you keep it going. The vial on the shelf is the thing they hope you keep coming back for. Seventh, keep plain Epsom salt on hand for constipation and bloating before you reach for a medication bottle. A fish that is bloated or struggling to stay upright because its swim bladder is off, the organ that controls its buoyancy, is very often just constipated, and Epsom salt, plain magnesium sulfate from the pharmacy, is a genuine gentle treatment for that. A measured amount in a separate container as a short bath acts as a muscle relaxant and helps the fish pass what is stuck. I want to be clear, this is a supportive treatment for the common plumbing problem. It is not a cure for a serious infection, so if a fish has real disease symptoms, that is a different situation. But for everyday bloat, a $2 box of Epsom salt does what the store sells in a $15 bottle. Eighth, drop Indian almond leaves into the tank for natural antibacterial tannins. These are catappa leaves, dried tropical leaves that release tannins into the water, the same compounds that tint a blackwater stream tea-colored, and they have genuine mild antibacterial and calming effects on fish. Betta keepers have used them for generations. A bag of leaves costs a few dollars and lasts a long time, and it does a gentle version of a job the medication shelf charges a premium for, taking the edge off stress and helping prevent minor infection. It also brings out better color and calmer behavior in a lot of fish. It will tint your water a bit amber, which some people love and some do not, so that part is your taste. Ninth, buffer hardwater fish with a cheap bag of crushed coral instead of the buffer bottles you dose forever. Some fish, African cichlids, live bearers, want hard, high pH water, meaning water with a lot of dissolved mineral in it. The store sells bottles of buffer to raise that, and you have to keep dosing them forever. Crushed coral, which is exactly what it sounds like, does it passively. Put a cup of it in your filter or mixed into your substrate, and it slowly dissolves, steadily holding your hardness and pH up right where those fish want them. And it self-regulates, dissolving faster when the water is softer. One honest caution, this is only for fish that actually want hard water. Never add it to a soft water tank, because you would be making conditions your fish hate. Match it to the livestock. 10th, grow your plants under a regular plant grow light or a plain LED shop light instead of a fixture with aquarium printed on it. Plants respond to the light itself, not the branding. A general horticultural grow light, or even a good plain LED shop fixture of the right brightness and color temperature, grows aquarium plants just as well as the aquarium-labeled unit sitting next to it at double the price. As long as you match the intensity to your tank, so you are not blasting a low-tech tank into an algae farm, the cheaper fixture is genuinely the same tool. People light entire fish rooms on shop lights for a fraction of what the branded fixtures would cost. 11th, A plastic storage tote is a perfect quarantine or grow-out tank, and it costs a few dollars instead of a whole second glass setup. When you need a hospital tank to treat a sick fish, or a grow-out tank to raise babies, you do not need another display aquarium. A cheap opaque storage tote from any big box store, the kind you keep holiday decorations in, holds water fine, and with a simple sponge filter and a heater, it is a complete working tank. Fish do not care that it is not pretty and not made of glass. I raised more fry in plastic totes over the years than in anything with a brand name on it. Function over looks, and the function is identical. 12th, get your plants and your cleanup snails free from other hobbyists, because paying retail for them is money the store is delighted to take. Plants are living things that grow, so every keeper with an established planted tank is constantly trimming and throwing away stems, and most are happy to hand you a bag of trimmings for nothing. Cleanup snails multiply on their own, so hobbyists are forever trying to give away extras. That stem of pothos, or those few snails the store wants real money for, somebody in your area is trying to get rid of by the handful. All you have to do is be plugged into the hobby, which is exactly what the end of this video is about. 13th, buy juvenile fish instead of the big showy adults. Younger fish are cheaper, they handle the stress of shipping and moving better, and they adapt to your water more easily than a fully grown adult that spent its whole life in different conditions. The store prices the big impressive adults higher because they catch your eye in the tank, but you often get a healthier long-term fish, and a cheaper one, by buying it young and growing it out yourself. You also get to watch it develop its adult color in your tank, which is half the fun anyway. A young fish grown out in your water also tends to settle in calmer and live longer, because it never had to survive a hard move from a wildly different setup as a fully formed adult set in its ways. 14th, trade your fry back to the store for credit, which quietly flips your tank from a cost into a source. Breed a common live bearer, a guppy, a platy, a molly, the ones that breed almost by accident, and you will have more babies than you know what to do with. Plenty of local stores will take healthy young fish in trade for store credit. Now your tank is producing the food, the plants, and the next fish, and paying for part of your own hobby. The store is fine selling you fish. They are less enthusiastic about you becoming a little supplier yourself. It is not a fortune, nobody is quitting their job on guppy credit, but a tank that pays for its own food and the occasional new fish changes how the whole hobby feels, from a thing you pour money into toward a thing that pays a little of its own way. Look, everything I'm walking through here is in the Aquarist's Bible. 204 pages, all 101 field-tested secrets, water chemistry made simple, the cycle done right, filtration, substrate, feeding, easy plants, algae control, stocking, and the self-cleaning tank that mostly runs itself. Plus what to actually do when it goes wrong, with a quick reference card for the stand. 3 decades of fishroom knowledge in one place. No more mystery deaths. No more scrubbing green glass every week. No more fighting your tank and dumping money at the fish store. Link in the description, QR code on screen. 15th, put a sponge pre-filter over your intake tube, one of the best couple of dollars upgrades in the hobby. The intake is the tube that sucks water into your filter, and a sponge pre-filter is just a sponge that slips over the end of it. It does 3 things at once. It stops baby fish and shrimp from being sucked into the filter. It catches large debris before it clogs your filter up. And, best of all, it grows a whole bonus colony of beneficial bacteria on that sponge, adding to your biological filtration for a couple of dollars. It is also an instant seeded filter you can move to a new tank to cycle it fast. Almost nobody buys one until they lose a shrimp to the intake. 16th, buy your dechlorinator and your fertilizer in the big concentrated bottle, not the little aquarium size one. Dechlorinator is the water conditioner that neutralizes the chlorine in tap water, so it does not harm your fish and bacteria, and the small bottle sold as the convenient aquarium size is a brutal markup per dose. The large concentrated version treats many times the water for barely more money, and one capful does what several capfuls of the weak stuff does. Same with liquid fertilizer. A concentrated bottle lasts a heavy planted tank keeper a year or more. Buying the little bottle over and over is paying a premium for a smaller container. 17th, fast your fish 1 full day a week, which costs you nothing and is exactly why a store that sells food will never suggest it. Skipping one day of feeding a week gives your fish's digestion a chance to fully clear, which prevents the constipation and bloat that sends people to the medication shelf, and it cuts down the waste and leftover food that fuel algae and cloudy water. Healthy adult fish are built to go days between meals in the wild, so one lean day a week is not deprivation, it is genuinely good for them. It is the single easiest hack on this list. It is free, and it makes your fish healthier while making you buy less food. No store is putting that on a sign. Now, a few honest limits, because a good hack used wrong becomes a problem. A couple of these are for specific situations only. Crushed coral only for hardwater fish. Epsom salt only for everyday bloat and not real disease. The DIY carbon dioxide only really practical on small tanks. And none of these replaces the fundamentals. A cycled tank, sane stocking, and regular water changes are still the foundation everything else sits on. When a fish is genuinely sick, spots, rotting fins, labored breathing, that is a quarantine tank and a proper medication, not a leaf or a salt bath. And one plain safety note that covers the whole list. You are mixing water and electricity in the same cabinet, so every cord goes in a drip loop, meaning it dips below the outlet so water runs off the bottom instead of tracking into the socket, and the whole thing goes on a GFCI outlet, the kind with the test and reset buttons. Especially worth checking when you are adding cheap gear, like a shop light or a tote setup that did not come aquarium ready. Which brings me to the thing I promised. The one the store truly does not want you to find, because it is where all 17 of these come together, the underground hobbyist economy. Here is the secret the retail counter will never tell you. There is an entire world of fish keeping happening outside the store, and once you plug into it, you may barely need the store again. Local fish clubs hold meetings and auctions where members sell homebred fish, plants by the bag, and gear, for a fraction of retail, sometimes for pocket change, and the fish are often healthier because they were raised in local water by a hobbyist, not shipped across the country. Aquarium societies run yearly auctions, where a bag of quality plants might go for a couple of dollars. Online forums and local fish keeping groups have members constantly giving away trimmings, extra snails, fry, and used equipment, often for free, just to clear space. That is where the free plants come from, the cheap juvenile fish, the trade credit, the starter cultures of live food, all of it. The store sells you one fish at retail. The hobbyist down the road hands you a breeding trio and a bag of plants and tells you to pass it forward when yours multiply. Search for a fish club or an aquarium society in your area. Join one local group online and go to one meeting. That single step plugs you into everything on this list at once, and it is the thing 30 years in this hobby taught me matters more than any product on any shelf. None of this is about cheating anybody, and the local shops that give real advice are worth supporting. I ran one. It is about knowing what you are actually paying for, so you spend on the things that matter, and stop overpaying for a fish printed on a label. Pick 3 of these that fit your tank. The bigger tank, the grocery store food, the sponge pre-filter, whatever, and start there this week. And go find your local fish people, because the moment you do, this hobby gets cheaper, better, and a whole lot friendlier than any store aisle ever was.